वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदनंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय प्रभुपद 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 जय प्रभुपद जय गुरुदेवा 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 जय गुरुदेवा नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल Hare Krishna everybody. So we will start today's class. First we will start with the prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yatkripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Harihi Om Tat Sat. Let's start with today's verses. So today's verses are the chapter number Canto number 3, chapter 19, 34. I'll share my screen. Anyesham punya shlokanam uddhamaya shasham satam upashrutya bhaven modaha Srivatsankasya kim punaha. Hare Krishna. Anybody wants to read the synonyms and translation? Okay. Synonyms. Anyesham, of others. Punya shlokanam, of pious reputation. Uddama, yashasham, whose fame is spread everywhere. Satam, of the devotees. Upashrutya, by hearing. Bhavet, may arise. Modaha, pleasure. Srivatsa Ankasya, of the Lord who bears the mark Srivatsa. Kim Punaha, what to speak of. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. What to speak of hearing the pastimes of the Lord, whose chest is marked with Srivatsa. People may take transcendental pleasure even in hearing of the words and deeds of the devotees whose fame is immortal. Let's go to the next verse. Yogajendram jhasagrashtam dhyayantam charanambujam kroshantinam karenunam krichrato amochayad dhrutam. Synonyms. Yaha, he who, Gaja Indram, the king of elephants. Jasa, an alligator. Grastam, attacked by. Dhyayantam, meditating upon. Charana, feet. Ambujam, lotus. Kroshantinam, while crying. Karenunam, the female elephants. Kruchrataha, from danger. Amochayat, delivered. Drutam, quickly. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The personality of Godhead delivered the king of elephants who was attacked by an alligator and who meditated upon the lotus feet of the Lord. At that time, the female elephants who accompanied him were crying, and the Lord saved them from the impending danger. Okay. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yen Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyatya Deshatarine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Jayapataka Swaminiti Namane Nama Acharya Padaya Nitai Kripa Pradayane Gaurakatha Dhamataya Nagara Gramatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So first of all, I think of myself the least qualified, that I am not at all qualified to give a class on Srimad Bhagavatam. But to please my spiritual master, I am following the instructions given by my seniors and trying to do some justice. So kindly forgive me if I do any kind of a mistake. Hare Krishna. So the first verse that we spoke about is very significant today. Very, very nice verse to begin, right? It says that the pastimes of the devotees is very pleasing to hear. Then what to talk about the pastimes of the Lord, whose chest is marked with the Srivatsa. So if you think about Srimad Bhagavatam, Amala Purana, the natural commentary of the Vedanta Sutras, the final book written by Srila Vyasadeva for the ultimate benefit of the humankind, summarizing everything of the Vedas as it is, this Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the tree of the Vedas, is consisting of various pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the pastimes of the different incarnations of the Lord, different expansions of the Lord, all the different types of avatars, and his superhuman pastimes we get to hear in this Bhagavatam. And is it all in Srimad Bhagavatam, or is there anything else? So when we talk about Bhagavatam, we are also talking about the devotees. The devotees are the pure devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or the Vaishnavas. Their stories we get to hear inside Srimad Bhagavatam. So here it is said, Satam upashrutya bhaven modaha. By hearing the deeds of the devotees, modaha, pleasure, transcendental pleasure we derive. We get so much of happiness. So a person may be having any kind of a material distress. But by simply paying oral reception, attention to Srimad Bhagavatam, one becomes very pleased. That person will forget all the miseries. It may be any kind of misery. Shoka moha bhayapaha. That is Srimad Bhagavatam. Can get us rid of lamentation, fear, and illusion. So, it is natural because the pure devotees of the Lord are very dear to Lord, and they are non-different from the Lord as per the Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. So Lord's name, Lord's form, Lord's transcendental stories, Lord's paraphernalia, and devotees are of the same nature, or of the same quality. Right? And these pure devotees actually are more merciful than the Lord, because Lord sees qualification to give knowledge. But these devotees distribute the love of Godhead without considering any kind of qualification. They will take all kinds of risk, personal risk, for fighting against Maya, for doing the business of Krishna. Krishna's business is to maintain all the living entities, to give them good counsel so that they surrender to him and they ultimately go back to Godhead and get relief from this repeated birth and death cycle in this material world. So that is the mission of the Lord. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkrutam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. That is the position of the Lord, and the devotees take a great risk personally to preach this message of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to everybody. So therefore, when we hear these deeds of these devotees, we get so much of pleasure, right? So here in the purport, Srila Prabhupada has written that the narrations of the devotees like Prahalada, Dhruva, Maharaja Ambarisha, right, are there in Srimad Bhagavatam. And then the Pandavas' story is there in Mahabharata. The Pandavas are very glorified, and the history of Pandavas is also very auspicious to hear because they are in relationship with Krishna. So we will talk about each of these devotees: Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, Ambarisha Maharaj, and Pandavas. We will try to hear their stories, and we will get a transcendental pleasure from within. And Lord Krishna says that if we hear these stories of Srimad Bhagavatam related to that of the Lord and his servants, then what is the result? Janma karma cha me divyam evam yoveti tatvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti. So Arjuna, if we understand that the birth and the pastimes of the Lord are transcendental, they are not material, then we will get relief from the repeated birth and death. Correct? And what is the benefit of hearing Krishna Katha? It says, Shrunvatam swakatham Krishna punya shravana kirtanaha hridyantastohi abhadrani vidhunoti suhrit satam. The Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who is the super soul in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses the desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So this is the benefit of hearing the Krishna Katha. It is Punya Shravana Kirtanaha. It is very all auspicious. And Vidunoti means it is a cleansing agent for our contaminated heart, contaminated mind will get cleansed and we will get transcendental pleasure. So, why is it that Krishna stories and Krishna's devotee stories are capable of giving us transcendental pleasure? Why the devotees? I mean, Krishna we can understand, he is the supreme personality of Godhead. But for the devotees also, it is giving us pleasure because each devotee is in relationship with Krishna. A pure devotee is one who has got firm faith that I am the eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, if we discuss the pastime of the devotees, it will be naturally involving the Supreme Lord. It cannot be independent of the Supreme Lord because of the strong attachment that the pure devotees have for Lord Sri Krishna. Correct? So let us talk about first the pastime of Prahalad Maharaj. So once upon a time, there was a great demon named Hiranyakashipu. And this Hiranyakashipu wants to take revenge for his brother, for his younger brother Hiranyaksha, who was killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Varaha Murti, or this wild boar. So he does penances for a long time. He does penances which are impossible to perform, and his body almost becomes reduced to skin and bones. And Lord Brahma appears in the scene and asks him, what is it that you want? Right? And this Hiranyakashipu says, oh dear Lord, kindly make me immortal. The Lord Brahma says, I'm so sorry, you cannot get immortality. Nobody is immortal in this material world. So therefore he says, okay, Hiranyakashipu says, please let me not meet death from any living entities created by you. That is the first condition. And I must not meet death from any entity, living or non-living. Or I shall not be killed by demigod or demon or any great snake from the lower planets. And I shall not have any rival. And make me the solo leader of all the living entities and presiding deities. Give me all the mystic powers by the practice of yoga. So then Lord Brahma says, Tatastu. And Hiranyakashipu starts tormenting the entire universe. And except for the Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, and Lord Brahma, all the demigods start serving Hiranyakashipu. And Hiranyakashipu will take over all the planetary systems, including the lower planetary systems and the higher planetary system, and the planetary system of Kimpurushas, Yakshas, Kinnaras, including the Swargaloka. He will capture it. And he will be enjoying in that beautiful buildings and beautiful gardens of the heavenly planets, which were meant for Indra. He is luxuriously enjoying there. And his eyes were always rolling due to intoxication. And he was the ruler of all the three worlds. Then all these demigods become very disturbed that all the religious principles are being broken by this Hiranyakashipu, and they start offering their prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the Lord assures them that this Hiranyakashipu shall be vanquished soon by me, especially when he will start tormenting his own son, Prahalada, the great Mahabhagavata, my pure devotee. That time I shall personally descend and I shall kill him. Then they all become very encouraged and they go back to their duties. So this Hiranyakashipu had a elder son. He had 4 sons. Eldest son was Prahalad Maharaj. This Prahalad Maharaj was personification of great qualities. He had so many qualities, nice qualities, that even the demigods in the assembly, they used to quote Prahalad Maharaj as an example or a role model for devotional service to Lord Krishna, or as the personification of good qualities. So being the demigods are on the opposite side of the demons, and Prahalad Maharaj is born in the family of demon. Even then, they were glorifying him. So he was a very great personality who used to give respect to all the elders and used to be equal to friends and enemies. So this Prahalad Maharaj was appointed under the sons of Shukracharya. Shukracharya was the sacrificial priest for Hiranyakashipu and for the demons also. He was the guru of the demons. So Shukracharya had 2 sons, Sanda and Amarka. Right? So they have got their own university, Sanda Amarka University. So they used to stay near the palace. And Hiranyakashipu entrusted his boy with Sanda and Amarka so that he will become an expert in diplomacy and economics and sense enjoyment. And after a few days, the small boy comes here to home. Just like any boy who is staying in a Gurukula comes back home, the parents become very happy. So they will dress him very nicely and present him in front of Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu will ask, "Oh, my dear boy, tell me, what have you learnt?" Then Prahalad Maharaj starts saying about devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that anybody who has accepted this materialistic life of existence of a family must actually give up and must go to forest and particularly to Vrindavana and practice devotional service if they want to get rid of these repeated miseries that are being presented to them. So when he heard, he laughed. Who is telling all this to you? And he calls his teachers, Shanda, Amarka, come here. What is all this that you're teaching to this boy? Take him away from here and teach him properly. So the Sanda and Amarka, they try to talk to him nicely and they ask him, but Prahalad Maharaj, he will again present devotional service as the supreme knowledge. And these teachers become very upset and they will chastise him and continue to teach him for a long time about how to suppress other kings, how to divide and conquer, how to give lucrative posts to the rulers so that they are subdued, right? And how to, loot the wealth from, or how to manage wealth rather, right? So this is all diplomacy, politics, and economics, right? So that's what he was learned. So Prahalad Maharaj learns this and comes back to his father, and he pays obeisances to his father, being the very sweet person he is, and endowed with so many great qualities. And Prahalad is in front of Hiranyakashipu, and Hiranyakashipu asks, "Oh, my dear son, please tell me, what is the best of the knowledge that you have learned? Tell me what is the best of the subjects. Can you tell me?" Then Prahalad Maharaj says, Sri Prahalad Uvacha, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishno, Smaranam Pada Sevanam, Archanam Vandanam Dasyam, Sakhyam Atmani Vedanam, Iti Pumsarpita Vishno, Bhaktis Chenava Lakshana, kriyeta bhagavatyaddha tanmanyedhitamuttamam. Prahlad Maharaj said, hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes of Lord, them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming his servant, considering the Lord one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto him. In other words, serving him with the body, mind, and words. These 9 processes are accepted as the pure devotional service. And one who has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, for he has acquired complete knowledge. So, as far as our community, International Society for Krishna Consciousness is concerned, we are all the followers of Prahlad Maharaj. Right? Every day in the morning, we do the Narsimha Harati and we glorify Prahlad Maharaj. Because in Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Vishnu says, this Prahlad Maharaj is an ideal devotee. Anybody who wants to become a pure devotee must follow the footsteps of Prahlad Maharaj. So whatever Prahlad Maharaj is saying is of great importance to all of us. So he is telling that anybody who is doing this Navavida Bhakti, 9 ways of devotional service, he must be understood as most learned person, because he has acquired the complete knowledge. Tanmanye adhitam uttamam. So I think that person is the most learned person, is what Prahlad Maharaj is saying. So, and what happens next is, Hiranyakashipu becomes very agitated by hearing this. And he says, how is it that you have known all this knowledge of my enemy? Lord Vishnu is from my enemy camp and you are glorifying him in front of me. How dare you? He says, soldiers, come here, kill this boy. And all the soldiers will come and say, come on, let's kill him, pierce him, kill him. And they try in various ways to kill him. What do? They throw him beneath the feet of big elephants and throw him among huge, fearful snakes. And they employ destructive spells on him. And they administer poison to him, starve him to death, and expose him to severe cold winds, fire, water, everything. Heavy stones on him to crush him. And nothing was happening to Prahlad Maharaj. It was so amazing that Prahlad Maharaj was always thinking about Lord Krishna, and he was in ecstasy. And he was not at all being harmed by these kind of assaults. Then Sanda Amarka come and say, okay, let's not continue this. It is futile exercise. We will continue to give him some more knowledge and then maybe he will change then. So you please send him to our Gurukula. And they will continue to teach him aggressively about the Varnas and Ashrama system and about how to be living in a householder life, how to maintain the family, how to maintain the kingdom, and doing a lot of devotional, the non-devotional activities of the Vedas. That is the material part of the Vedas. They will teach him. But Prahlad Maharaj is not at all interested in hearing to all this. He only gets interested in the pure devotional service of the Lord. And ultimately, again, finally, this Prahlad Maharaj is presented in front of Hiranyakashipu, and Hiranyakashipu asks again, and the Hiranyakashipu and the Prahlad Maharaj will start talking about Lord Vishnu again. And this time, Hiranyakashipu becomes very angry. And then he says, you are saying that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is everywhere. Is he there inside this column also? He says, of course, he is there everywhere. Then he will just break that column, and out of which comes the Supreme Personality of Godhead incarnation, just for the sake of Prahalad Maharaj. Prahalada Lada Daine. It's sing, right? Namaste Narasimhaya Prahalada Lada Daine Hiranyakashi Purvakshaha Shilatanka Nakalai Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha Yeto Yamitato Narsimha Bahir Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapadhi Tavakara Kamalavare Nakam Adbhuta Shringam Dalito Hiranyakashipur Tanubhringam Keshavadhrita Narhari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Shri Shri Narasimhadev Bhagwan ki Jai. So Lord comes with multiple arms and roaring ferociously, and he kills all the associates of Hiranyakashipu, and he catches hold of Hiranyakashipu and puts him on his waist, and he fulfills all the condition. So neither outside the house nor inside the house, neither in the sky nor in the ground, not during the daytime nor during the night time. So Lord is not one of the living entities created by Brahma, and he is neither a demigod nor a demon. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master and origin of all the demigods and the sages. This Supreme Personality of Godhead, he kills not with a weapon, not with a living thing or a non-living thing, but with the nails, which are neither living nor non-living. So you cannot technically classify them as any one of these. So like this, he will kill Hiranyakashipu by ripping apart his stomach and opening up his guts and removing all the intestine out and wearing it. So we see how much pleasure we get by narrating the pastimes of this pure devotee, Prahalad Maharaj, who is the pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Simply by hearing the pastimes of the devotees also gives us transcendental pleasure, right? Then what to talk about, talking about the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They give us relief, right? See, the purpose of these pastimes is that for giving relief for the living entities. So all the living entities are being troubled a lot in the material world, which material world is full of suffering. So there is a verse which says about the danger of the material world. I'll just read that. Samashritaye padapallava plavam mahat padam punya yasho murarehe bhavam budhirvatsa padam param padam 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 yat vipadam natesham. For those who have accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is famous as Murari, the enemy of the Mura demon, the ocean of material world is like water contained in a calf's hoof print. Their goal is Parampadam, Vaikuntha, the place where there is no material miseries, not the place where there is danger at every step. So in this, the most important point here is, it says, Parampadam, Padam Padam Yat Vipadam, Natesham. Those pure devotees of the Lord Sri Krishna who have taken his shelter, their destination is Vaikuntha, where there is no anxiety at all, there is no suffering at all, there is no bodily miseries at all. That is the suitable position of a pure devotee, not this place, which is full of danger at every step. Right? There is a danger at every step. So if there is a pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is not fit to suffer in this material world. That person will be transferred to the spiritual world by Lord Krishna. Because this world is Tukhalayam Ashashvatam. And there are so many dangers here at every step. You see, here in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, right, that the knowledge presented in the section of Srimad Bhagavatam, Sridhar Goswami says like this, right, that Lord Krishna's lotus feet are described as Pallava, flower buds, because they are most tender and of pinkish hue. And even the exalted devotees like Narada personally take shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. Right? Therefore, you have to understand this, analyze this, and accept it, that this material is not a very good place. At every point, there is a danger. So there is an interesting statistic I was searching for. This was a research done by Australian government or some agency, research agency. So that is the mortality rate probability. So they have made, analyzed all the lifespan of all the human beings, and they have seen, classified it in a table, what is the age and how many survivors are there for till that age. For example, if somebody would ask, what is the probability that a person survives to their 40th birthday? The probability as per their calculation for their country, for their population is 98.825%. So similarly, it will go on. What is the probability that a person will survive till the age of 75? 84.459%. And what is the probability that a person will survive up to the age of 100? It is 3.312%. You can see from 100% how the probability of survival is reducing year by year. That means it is also concluded in that research that mortality rate roughly doubles every 8 years. That means after every 8 years, we are like 2 times more chances that we may die. So this is the material world. This is also called as a Martya Loka, the world of death. And death may come anytime, in any form, any kind of a way, in a very gruesome way also it may come. But for the pure devotee, there is no danger, because he will be assured, he is assured to be transferred back to the spiritual worlds. Okay, so this is the way that we must be understanding things. So we have heard about Prahalad Maharaj, correct? And now we will see about Dhruva Maharaj pastime. So Dhruva Maharaj was son of the king Uttanapada, and he had two wives, Suruchi and Suniti. Suruchi was his favorite wife, while Suniti was not. And the son of Suniti was Dhruva Maharaj. And one day, a son of this Suruchi was sitting on the lap of Uttanapada king. Then, naturally, young boys, 5-year-old Dhruva Maharaj, he also wanted to sit and enjoy sitting on the lap of his father. And when he came to sit on the lap of his father, he was pushed away hardly by his stepmother, Suruchi. How dare you sit on your father's lap? Get out of here. Just go and do penance. Go to the forest and do penance for Lord Vishnu and take another birth in my womb and then become qualified to sit in your father's lap. Get out from here. Pushed him. So this young Prahalad, this young Dhruva Maharaj was a Kshatriya by birth. He was in the mode of passion. He became very determined that I must earn a kingdom which is better than that of my father and that of my grandfather also. And he goes to the forest for performing austerities. And the spiritual master for devotional service, Narada, comes and stops this boy and says, "Dear boy, where are you going? Why are you going inside the forest? Go and play at your home, in your palace. Why are you taking all this kind of risk in the forest?" He says, No, I'm not bothered about death. I just want to get a bigger kingdom than my father. That's all. And I want to subdue the pride of my stepmother. That's it. So he says, if you can help me, you help me, or else I will go on my own. So Narada becomes very, very compassionate towards this little boy and gives him the necessary knowledge for performing the penance. And Prahlad Maharaj does very strong penance. You see, Hiranyakashipu also did a penance, right? And Dhruva Maharaj is also doing penance. But there is a difference. Aradhito yadi hari tapasa tapah kim. Naradhito yadi hari tapasa tapah kim. If you are already worshipping the Lord Vishnu, if you are already a devotee of the Lord Vishnu, tapah kim, tapasa tapah kim. What is the necessity for performing austerities like bathing in ice cold water in winter, or surrounding yourself with fire in summer? There is no need of doing all this kind of tapasyas which are given in the Vedas. If you are already a pure devotee of the Lord, because that is my fine purpose. Naradito yadi hari tapasa tapakim. If you are not a devotee, then also what is the use of your tapasya? Because ultimately whatever you are going to get is temporary. Because naturally we will be approaching demigods for our tapasya, and we'll ask for some benediction. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says these demigods and their benedictions are both temporary. So what is the use of these benedictions? So Naradito yadi hari tapasa tapakim. Hiranyakashipu did this. Finally, the result was useless. Right? Shrama eva hi kevalam means total useless labor. That's all. But Dhruva Maharaj is performing for the Lord, to the Lord. So he has done very strict austerities for 6 months, gradually withdrawing his food, water, and even stopped breathing air. And the whole planet started trembling. And all the devatas came running to Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma goes to Lord Vishnu, and they pray to Lord Vishnu that please help us to come out of this situation. We are not able to breathe air at all. Then the Lord Vishnu appears in front of Dhruva Maharaj. First he appears in the heart and then appears outside. Dhruva Maharaj opens his eyes and he sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this Dhruva Maharaj does not know what to do now. He does not know what he must be glorifying. He is not even knowledgeable in that. Even to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we must have knowledge, transcendental knowledge. Or else how can we glorify him? So Lord, out of compassion, places his conch shell on the head of Dhruva Maharaj, and Dhruva Maharaj starts glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead and says, "Oh my dear Lord, I am so foolish. I was looking for some pebbles and I found diamond. So I was looking for some silly pebbles, like, I wanted to ask you for some silly materialistic benediction." Right? So just like it seems that there was one lady who was holding a lot of sticks, and in the forest she was collecting all the sticks. Old lady, she's walking, and she fell down and she loudly cried, "Krishna!" And the Lord appeared. The Lord appeared. He asked, "What do you want?" She said, "Please take that sticks and put it on my head." So Lord put that and he left. So it is foolish to ask these kind of temporary benedictions in front of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We must ask for devotional service. By attaining pure devotional service of the Lord will become our associate, and he's ready to become our servant also. Lord wants to be served. Actually, he doesn't want to be served by us. He wants to serve us if we become his pure devotees. Just like how Lord wanted to serve Yashoda, right? And Nanda Maharaj. Like that. Or he served Pandavas. He became their ambassador. He became their driver. He became their counselor. He used to eat with them, sleep with them, and do every activity with them. So he wants to serve the devotees. So for that, we have to get the pure devotional service. That is what we must be actually asking. So then what happened? Dhruva concludes his prayers, and the Lord instructs him to continue ruling the world for a certain amount of time, and then he will be transferred to the Dhruva Loka, where he will stay for a long duration. And he will be enjoying there all kind of material riches along with the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And not only that, at the end of the complete annihilation of the universe, when everything merges into Lord Vishnu, he will go back to Godhead. So therefore, even if you have material desires or if you don't have material desires, we must always approach the Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna, right? So this is the wonderful pastime of Dhruva Maharaj. And if we see the Pandavas, how we have seen the Supreme Personality of Godhead used to save them at every point of time. The Pandavas, right? So what did Pandavas, how is it possible that, Pandavas can forget Krishna? Right? Because there's a very nice verse in Srimad Bhagavatam that says, the intelligent who have understood the Supreme Lord in the association of the pure devotees and have become freed from the bad material association can never avoid hearing the glories of the Lord, even though they have heard them only once. Then how could then the Pandavas tolerate his separation? For they had been intimately associated with his person, seeing him face to face, touching him, conversing with him, sleeping, sitting, and dining with him. So even if we hear about Lord's pastimes, once we become attached to Lord Krishna and we feel great separation when we stop hearing the pastimes, then what to talk about these great Pandavas who have personally associated with the Lord, see him face to face, touched him, conversed with him, slept and sit and dined with him. How the Supreme Personality of Godhead protected them from so many dangers. How he protected the Bhima Sena from poison. How he protected the Pandavas from the Shalak house. How he protected from the Asat Sabha, that is the assembly, vicious assembly, where Draupadi was attempted to be stripped. How he has protected them when they were in the exile from the curse of Durvasa Mahamuni. How he protected these Pandavas in the Kurukshetra war, where it was the war, that Kurukshetra war is compared to a big ocean, where this Bhishma and Drona and Karna are like big sharks who can eat these Pandavas and finish them off. It was so difficult. The chances or the probability of Pandavas winning were not so high. But Lord protected them. So when we hear these pastimes of the Pandavas, how Pandavas have associated with Lord Krishna, how they have served him, how they have followed his orders, and how they went back to Godhead. So we get great enthusiasm to have faith in the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So ultimately, all these stories of Bhagavatam are indicating one point: Ashraya, shelter. That means we must not try to be independent. We must try to take shelter. And whose shelter should we take? There are many controllers, but every controller has got another controller. The only controller who has no controller is the Supreme Controller. Abhignya, Swarat, completely independent. He can take any decision. Whatever he wants, he can do. And he can bewilder anybody. That Supreme Absolute Truth, Lord Sri Krishna, his lotus feet, we have to take the shelter. This is the purpose of reading Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the conclusion that we should come to. After reading Mahabharata, when you ask a person, what is the conclusion that you have understood? Many people, unfortunately, due to the influence of Kali, due to less intelligence, they don't understand. They will think that sub-religious principles is the goal of life. The actual goal of life is not the sub-religious principles or the Upadharma, but the Bhagavata Dharma, also called as Sanatana Dharma, that is surrendering to the lotus feet of the Lord Krishna, taking his shelter. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja, aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma sucha. Taking the shelter of the Lord. This is what we are supposed to be doing, dear devotees. So this is the quality that we get. We get happiness. We get transcendental pleasure from within. At once we will come to the transcendental happiness stage by performing pure devotional service. We don't have to struggle very hard like the yogis or the jnanis who are spending hours and hours and hours or days and months of their practice sitting in the Himalayas or perfecting the grammar rules of Sanskrit and trying to understand all the Upanishadic literature and trying to speculate with their mind and ultimately coming to the Samadhi stage. The pure devotees are so lucky. We are all so lucky. Srila Prabhupada has given us this process, which is a 0-calorie activity, hearing, Shravanam. Simply by hearing this pastimes of the Lord or the pastimes of the devotees, we can become very happy, right? We can get the inner happiness. We can get the inner peace. This is the solution that we have got, that we have to present. As devotees, this is the solution, or as preachers, we have to give this solution to everybody in the world, to all the suffering living entities. If we can give this Krishna Katha and the stories of the devotees of the Lord, they will become very relieved from the sufferings. And ultimately, they can attain that supreme destination, Padam Gacchantyanamaayam. Yadgatvana nivartante tadhama paramam mama. After going where there is no return, there is no sun, there is no moon there are no countries, right? So that is a place where we should aspire to go back home, back to Godhead, and associate and serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face and serve Him through the devotees or through His servants, or become the servant of the servant of the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we must take the instructions from them and follow it faithfully. And then we have every hope and every promise that Lord is giving us that we can go back to home, back to Godhead. So coming to the next verse here, we have the personality of Godhead delivered the king of elephants who was attacked by an alligator and who meditated upon the lotus feet of the Lord. At that time, the female elephants who were accompanied him were crying, and the Lord saved them from the impending danger. So this is the wonderful pastime of Gajendra. The famous prayers called the Gajendra Moksha is a part of this section of Srimad Bhagavatam of Gajendra. So Gajendra was a great kingly elephant, and he was in a very wonderful planet, and which was surrounded by great natural beauty. And he has so many wives and children, and he was so majestic, and he was so intoxicated. And he enters inside the pond to take bath, and he takes bath majestically. And then he's shouting loudly with his trunks, and everybody's getting scared because of that. And he's like the king of the jungle there, and he's taking water and he's bathing all of their family members also. Even though it was so difficult for him, still he was doing it. Just like how a materialistic person is very busy, involved in maintaining the family, he was also so busy maintaining his family. Little did he know that his fate was waiting for him, and a big alligator, a crocodile, caught his feet and started pulling him backwards inside the water. And Gajendra, he was not going to give up so easily. He was such a strong elephant. After all, he was the king of the jungle. So he started pulling and shouting, "Oh!" and like that, making big sounds. And he was pulling that with great enthusiasm. This continued for 1,000 years. And slowly, the strength, energy, enthusiasm of Gajendra started decreasing, and the strength, vigor, and energy of the alligator started increasing. It was becoming more and more powerful. Gajendra was becoming more and more weak. At that time, he had the remembrance of his past life, and he remembered a prayer called Gajendra Moksha. And he starts to pray the Supreme Personality of Godhead in great distress, in great separation, in great misery. He starts crying loudly, "Oh, Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the cause of creation, destruction, and maintenance, kindly come and protect me." He shouts very loudly, right? And what happens then? The demigods, they become offended that why is this person calling Lord Vishnu? We will not come. Or then the Lord Vishnu will come. So actually, Gajendra will not exactly tell like whom he is calling. He'll say just the in an indirect way, he'll just say Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the controller of all the controllers. So everybody was thinking, I am not the controller, I have a controller, so it's not me. So everybody was thinking like that. So no, the demigods did not come. The Supreme Lord at once came there, and he pulled him, that elephant, along with the alligator outside of the water, and the demigods came running there to see there, because they've actually offended the Supreme Lord by not coming there. So to correct their offense, they're standing with their folded hands, prostrated obeisances they pay to the Lord, and the Lord will, in front of everybody, kill that alligator and release Gajendra, right? So this Gajendra will be taken back to Godhead, right? So this is the pastime of Gajendra, right? So that's what it is. So it is said that the Lord, Supreme Lord himself came to protect this Gajendra, right? Gajendra is, after all, an elephant, an animal. And the Supreme Lord has come to deliver an animal also, because he was a devotee. He was a pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then even an animal can get liberated. But if a demigod is also there, if he is not a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no hope that that person can be liberated. Similarly, we can see in the case of our acharyas, when we hear the pastimes from Chaitanya Charitamrita, when we hear the pastimes of the associates of Lord Chaitanya, or if we hear about Sri Madhavendra Puri's pastime, or if we hear about the various other pastimes of our acharyas, our guru, and Srila Prabhupada, his guru, and the Acharya Parampara, on their appearance day, disappearance day, we feel like hearing and hearing and hearing. We become so happy that we don't feel like moving. So especially Srila Prabhupada pastimes, that we have these books written by Satsvarup Maharaj, His Holiness Satsvarup Maharaj. So we have this pastimes of Srila Prabhupada. Many of his disciples have written his books. And any of this book, if you pick up, you don't feel like stop to reading it. So there is a transcendental bliss. There's so much of happiness that comes from within when we hear it. Is so purifying effect. So similarly, our devotees also, the senior devotees, the exalted devotees, our devotees also, who are doing the preaching services very nicely, when they present their reports, when they tell how they have done preaching very nicely in different activities, different circles, that also gives us a lot of enthusiasm, and we feel like hearing more and more and glorifying everybody. So every Vaishnava is very great, and every Vaishnava is very precious, right? So because they are all carrying Lord Krishna in their heart, and they're giving this love of Godhead, the most rare thing in this material world, to everybody without any discrimination. So in conclusion, I would like to pay my obeisances, respectful obeisances, unto the lotus feet of late His Grace Anadi Jagannath Prabhu, who has left his body recently on 30th of July in an accident. And he has gone back to the spiritual world, Godhead, where he is fit to be remaining. And he is not fit to be staying in this material world of suffering. I think that's what the Lord has decided. And he has taken him to the spiritual world. So we have his legacy. So I'm feeling very awkward to sitting in this Vyasasana, which is belonging to him and all the senior devotees of ISKCON Seshadripuram, who have gloriously taken forward this mission of Srila Prabhupada ahead, and set us a great role model for us how we must be conducting in our life. So with this conclusion, I would like to end the class. If anybody has any questions, you can ask, or if anybody has any comments, or if you want to add something, you're welcome. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Pancha kalpa tarubhyascha, kripa sindhubhya evacha, patitanam pavanebhyo, vaishnavebhyo, namo namaha. Grandharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
jai.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Srihari Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam Prabhu.
Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, can you answer me? Just I was wanted to know, like, irrespective of Krishna staying with Pandavas and all the time, like as you were saying, the class also, how they were and used to be with them, but still there were sufferings were there with them, like every now and then, like, all sort of sufferings was there. How do we understand this, Prabhuji? When Krishna was there physically with them, also still the suffering was there. So how do we understand this, please?
Yes, nice question, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. So the way we have to understand this is that Lord has defined in Bhagavad Gita that this is Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam. That this is Dukkhalaya means full of suffering. And we have seen, I presented one verse on Srimad Bhagavatam where it said, Padam Padam Yat Vipadam Natesham. So the nature of the material world is that at every step there is constant danger. So that is the nature of the material world. So it must be there. Suffering must be there. But the point is, if we surrender to the Lord Krishna, our suffering will be minimized. At least we will not be able to feel it so much because we will be elevated out of the bodily platform. But there is no escape to the suffering. The suffering has to come. Just like if you are going in a very nice car, which has nice suspension, okay, so the potholes will be there, but the jerk that you will get from the potholes will be less. You will feel less, right? So that is the kind of the association. That is why we should take to this, so that, another point is, this is not one-time suffering. This is a cycle of suffering due to karma, right? This cycle of suffering, if you want to end this, we have to take up to this solution of Krishna consciousness. So Lord will give us punishment. Lord will take over and he will start to give punishment on behalf of Yamadharmaraja for the pure devotees, just as a token. Just like how a parent will punish just for the sake of punishment to cancel off or nullify everything that was there previously with a token punishment. So we should think like that. That whatever the suffering they have got is a token of what they were, is a very small token of what actually they were supposed to get, like that. So the Lord is trying to say the same thing, consistent with his message of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, that this world is not meant for gentlemen to live. So we must very carefully execute devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we must be very careful in our dealings, and we must try to attain that Supreme by following his instructions and the instructions of his pure devotees. That is the understanding that we should have. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam. Jai.
Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna devotees. Thank you very much for joining today. We'll leave for now. Please join tomorrow again for Bhagavatam class by ISKCON Seshadripuram. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Yes, Sri Ram Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Sri Kumar Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.